Probably one of the most powerful things that I could share with anyone is to live with intention, but without attachment, right? So know what your goals are, know where your North Star is, but don't be so attached to getting there in a straight line.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to the Whole Purpose Movement. It's Susan here. I've got an amazing guy, genius, Eran Thomson. Who needs caffeine? I don't. I'm sitting with this guy here. He is an award-winning ad director, founder of the Lifemaster Academy, founder of many organizations. You're an entrepreneur and you are just an ideas machine and you execute them. So he's also beaten cancer and also climbed Everest. So we're going to hear some real interesting stories from this guy, and you're going to be able to apply how to get really great ideas and execute them, because that's the main thing. So Eran, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Eran, firstly, I want to start off with, you've won awards for some of your great ideas, and you come up with so many of them. A lot of them are great. Like, what's the winning formula to create a great idea for someone who wants to get inspired with their work, with their life? What's the process to go about doing that?
I think probably it starts with perspective. Like the first thing I would say in terms of like putting together a formula for you is see the world. You know, if you're in Australia, get off the island, right?
Yeah.
Go see things. Go learn how other people live. Get some clarity and perspective on what's happening around you.
Yeah.
That'd be the first thing. Expand your worldview. Right?
Yeah.
So you have a more innate vision of what's happening. Right.
Yeah.
The second thing is awareness. So by that I mean study the past, but look to the future. I think what we're seeing now, especially in creative industries, is a lot of repeat and a lot of copycat.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to people not really understanding the industry or the genre they're working in. And there's no excuse for that. Like with the internet now and all the access we have to design blogs and industry blogs, whatever your chosen profession or career is, it's really unacceptable to not really understand and not be aware of what's come before you, and make sure you're not copying, make sure you're not, just rehashing old ideas and calling them new because they're new to you.
Yeah.
Right. And then the third thing is time, right? You need time for ideas to percolate. You need time for, if you're briefed on something or you're given a challenge or a problem to try and solve, we are so used to in the society of getting things instantly, right? I want to watch this movie. Click, I'm watching it. I want to find out what the president of Chechnya is. If they even have a president. I don't know. Let's find out. Google, click, now I know, right? Yeah. So everything's instantly accessible. And so that doesn't always translate to the development of good ideas, right? Anyone can have an idea in an instant, but to have a great idea, sometimes you just need to let things breathe, right? There's that great quote about, you can have it fast, cheap, or good. Choose any two.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the time is the third part of that formula that you asked about, and the fourth thing would be team. Right. Having great people around you. For me, the way that any of the things that I've been able to manifest, almost all of the successful ones have not been the ones I've tried to do on my own. Right. You need great people around you who have different skill sets, who believe in your skill sets and trust you, and you trust them. Without that, an idea is not going to get off the ground. Ideas really, I think, they're wonderful when you have them, but they're essentially worthless until they can be manifested. And to do that on your own is really hard. To do that with other people that you trust and believe in, and who trust and believe in you, is wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is probably resilience. You got to bounce back. You got to be tough. You got to,
take a ball.
You do, right? It's not everything's going to be easy, even if you have all those other things in place. So you just have to stay tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said an interesting word there, manifest. So are you someone who co-creates with the universe and believes in the law of attraction?
Look, I'm not sure if it's like law of attraction, like the movie The Secret, for example, came out and everyone all of a sudden thought, oh, all I have to do is ask the universe for this thing and maybe it will come. And if that was true, we'd all win the lottery, right? So I think that you have to have faith, you have to believe in yourself, believe in others, and I think it's okay to ask for what you want. But I think also that the first part of getting what you want is saying it out loud, right? Whether that's to the universe or to a friend or to someone who might potentially be an investor or whatever it is. Like, if it just sits in your head, it can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But when you say things out loud, they become real, right?
Yeah.
So that's a small piece of that whole bigger thing that I think I utilize now and I believe in. Yeah.
So how do we get that idea into action?
Yeah, well, look, I think one of the things that drives me crazy are, you've heard of those kinds of people they call doers. Like, oh,
Yeah.
he's a doer, right?
Yeah,
I have another kind of person that I refer to called the gunners, right?
gunners.
And we're surrounded by people who have great ideas. Who say, oh yeah, I'm gonna write that screenplay, or oh yeah, I'm gonna do my startup, or yeah, I'm gonna run a marathon, right? Everyone's gonna do something, but until you're actually doing it, you're really not. You're just talking about it. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So in terms of like motivating to action, the first thing I would say is get rid of any limiting beliefs you have, right? We all have things that we believe about ourselves that probably aren't true, and if they feel true, but they're holding you back, then there's an issue there that you need to look at and work on, right? So get rid of your fears, get rid of your limiting beliefs that are holding you back, and then also to get comfortable with failure, or even explore the idea that failure might not even really exist as a concept, right? Like Clint Eastwood said, "A day above ground is a good day," right?
Yeah.
If you're above ground, you're winning.
Alive. Yeah,
You're winning.
exactly.
So like start there, right? And if you can subscribe to that, and and kind of get comfortable with failure and understand that every opportunity is a learning opportunity. How many times? There's a famous quote about Edison and the light bulb. Like, he didn't fail 900 times. He learned 900 times until the whatever time he actually got the thing to work.
Yeah.
I think that's true. It can be really hard if you're failing 900 times in a row. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But getting comfortable with failure, I think, is important. And then also understanding what you're getting yourself into, right? In the case of Lifemaster Academy, that was a very naive and frankly selfish endeavor. I wanted to learn more about improv and learn about sketch comedy, and I had started my training in Los Angeles and fell in love with it there. Came back to Australia, and it didn't really exist here the way it does there. Like, there's a caliber of instruction and a pedigree of teachers and the schools over there that is just amazing when you think about all the famous people who we watch in film and television now who've come through those programs. That doesn't exist in Australia, and I wanted it to. So I kind of like I said, naively jumped in and went, oh, well, let's see if I can make that happen. And started flying people out and building the program. And I remember being told at the time by a close associate saying, this thing's going to blow up and it's going to become a business. Are you ready for that? And I was like, well, I'll deal with it when I deal with it. And then it did. And now it is. And it's, it's a little bit like, oh, far out. I wasn't prepared, right? And I think the school, whilst very successful now, struggled for a period of time because I didn't have a clear understanding. I didn't have a clear vision. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. Right? So as much as possible, I think before you take action, try and have a holistic view and a long-term view of where this thing can go. Right? Because if it works, you need to be prepared for that.
Exactly.
Right? And then the other thing is, like, take small steps, right? Don't go to the mountain straight away, right? Don't try and head for the top. I think, again, I talked about earlier, like in this society where we're so used to having everything quickly, it's easy to forget that everyone successful didn't happen overnight. The great saying, it takes a long time to be an overnight success, right? So take small steps, trust that you will get there, have faith in yourself and your ability and your team, and you'll all of a sudden you find yourself on top, right?
So, and I mean, the Lifemaster Academy is a great example of how you wanted to do something for yourself, but you helped a lot of people in the creation of it, because a lot of people did benefit, from you bringing that idea to Australia. And as a student of Lifemaster Academy, it's also a great way to learn how to fail joyfully, because that's one of the first things that we get taught in class. And to not be afraid of failure is actually part of the journey. It's not isolated. It's not stopping you from the journey. And you said a great thing about being taking small steps. Is that what motivated you to climb Everest? I'm just curious. Like, what made you want to put your life on the line?
Well, look, to be fair, I did go to Everest. It was part of a group, a wonderful experience called Everest Rocks, which was a successful attempt to do the world's highest rock concert. Right. So I did this trek with a bunch of kind of 80s rock stars and fellow cancer survivors or cancer patients, and it was a documentary that was filmed by MTV, so you can go find that.
What's it called?
Everest Rocks.
Everest Rocks, yeah.
So, and it was a wonderful experience, but I didn't go to the summit, you know, and
Yeah.
so when you say he went to Everest, I just want to be clear. I wasn't up there, you know, planting a flag on the very top. But to get to base camp is still, you know, a sort of an achievement. And I think, you know, one of the things I learned from that is that things aren't always as hard as they seem. You know, like people go, oh, you went to Everest, that must be like, what was that like? Even you're asking me now, right? But the reality is that it's once you kind of get into something, you're in, and you're like, okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm here, and you just go for it and you make it happen. And in the case of Everest, I think that one of the big takeaways was things aren't always as hard as they sound.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If that sounds like the hardest thing ever, and you find out it isn't, then what are all the other hard things that are holding you back? That might not be as hard as you think they are once you get on the trail and start climbing, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big takeaway. And, you know, and the funny thing about Everest too, like when I trained really hard for Everest, you know, I wasn't entirely cured of my cancer, but I was in pretty good shape. But I was training really hard, going for hikes and walks and like carrying backpacks and doing all that stuff. And I got all geared up, you know, and then about a month before the trek, I hurt my knee. I blew my knee. I think I tore my MCL or something like that,
Ouch.
right? And I remember going to a doctor I couldn't get in to see my regular doctor. I got in to see another doctor, and he brings me into his room, and he's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "I'm going to Everest in a month, and I've just done something to my knee." And as I'm sitting there talking to him, I look up on his wall, and he's got a photo of Mount Everest. There's nothing else in his office.
Oh my gosh,
you know, like
a calling.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like, you know, like dentist offices like often have no art or really bad art.
Yeah.
And he had this Mount Everest photo, and I was like, what? You know, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, I go there. I've been there 3 times. I love it. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, what about this knee?
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll be fine.
You
know,
know,
like,
and that gave you the confidence you needed.
And I was like, okay. And then I got there, and like I said, you know, it wasn't as challenging as people perceive it to be. You know, it is a long hike, and it is a at times tough hike, largely because of altitude. But you know, it's achievable. Yeah.
So sometimes you're saying you just have to sweat in training so you don't bleed in battle, and then just go there and do it, and you realize what things that are holding you back aren't actually that hard. It's you who's holding you back.
Yeah, almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you talk a lot about self-limiting beliefs. What are some self-limiting beliefs that you've overcome in your life?
Oh wow, we're gonna get really personal. Look, I think I mean, there's so many. I think one of the best investments a person can make is in their own self-improvement, whatever that means to you, right? So like if you need to see a counselor, don't be ashamed about that. If you need to work with a psychologist, don't be ashamed about that. Go for it. If you want to work with, I don't know, like energetic healers or kinesiologists or palm readers, I don't care what it is. If you find something that works for you, embrace that and invest in that and do the hard work, right? Because that's where the gold is, really. And I think for me, you know, there's all kinds of really small beliefs that can have a big impact and prevent you from achieving the things you want to achieve. I think one of the biggest ones for me that set me on the journey of my own kind of personal development and personal growth and doing that work was about believing that life was hard. Life is supposed to be hard, right? If you're not struggling, something's wrong, right? And I think I read an Eckhart Tolle book, and there was one line in that book that really changed my life, and it was about you have a choice. You can choose what kind of relationship you want to have with life. You can make life your friend, or you can make life your enemy. And for me, I realized I'd been living almost my whole life with life as kind of like my enemy, like this adversary that I had to get through, I had to battle. And in many ways, I think that's part of what caused my cancer. You know, like, because, you know, if you asked about the universe before, right? I think the universe will give you the things you need to learn the things you need to learn, right? And it will fulfill the things you believe. So if you believe that life is hard, life is a struggle, then that's the life you'll have, right? And getting back to the Eckhart Tolle piece, if you go, actually, I'm going to flip that, and I did it as an experiment, I was like, if that's really true, I'll do an experiment and see if it is. And so I kind of tried looking at life differently, and it changed everything.
Yeah. And is that when you started gaining momentum in your life?
I think the momentum that was created from that moment was to dig deeper into my own stuff, right, and kind of start unpacking it, trying to remove the stuff that was holding me back. And then once you kind of get freed up and you can live more authentically and without those limiting beliefs and fears holding you back, that's when you can start to get traction on the ideas that, well, that for me personally anyway, that's when I started to get traction.
Yeah. And so did you do this during cancer or, like, firstly, you had cancer 20 years ago?
Yeah, it was a while ago. I was, I think it was around 20 something when I got diagnosed. It's funny, I knew you were going to ask me about cancer, and it's been so long since I thought about it, and I think there'd be a lot of people who know me that would be surprised to even know that I had that experience, and the people, friends who know that I did, are always telling me, oh, I always forget you had that, you know, because like it's just such not a part of my life anymore. I mean, I think some of the lessons are still sticky, but I don't think about being a cancer patient. I don't think about being a cancer survivor. Really. I don't identify that way. There's a lot of people who go through cancer and make that their badge for life, and you know, and even after they're well, kind of continue to kind of live that survivor mentality. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's where they are. But I feel like I've been really fortunate not only to beat the disease, but to be able to let go of it.
And so how do people let go of it? And so, you know, also what are some of the key learnings that you took from that stage in your life?
Oh, wow. Well, I think the first one you get really quickly is live in the moment, live for now, right? If we all have a ticking clock, whether we like to believe that or not, right? There's a clock ticking.
Exactly.
But when something like that can really change your perspective, right? And you know, it kind of feels like it speeds up the clock, right? And or you know, if it's a battery-powered clock, that battery's going to potentially run out and go flat, and you're out of time. So living in the moment, I think, is the first thing that everyone who gets a diagnosis like that starts to kind of look at. And then probably the second for me was to live truthfully, to live authentically, and to kind of let go of any, I don't want to say shame or embarrassment, but kind of like to stop worrying about what the world thinks of you. You know, you're like,
that's huge.
Screw it. You know, like I'm here. This is who I am. This is my reality right now, and that's all I can. I am all I can be right now. So let's just accept that, and hope others can too, and move through what you need to move through to get well. Hopefully, get well. And then the other thing would be to, I think I touched on this before, to look at the beliefs, to look at the fears that potentially led to that disease. Like if you think about disease as being not only of the body but of the mind, like, you know, we're not just physical beings, we're emotional beings, right?
There's spiritual beings.
There's a wonderful book called The Molecules of Emotion. Molecules of Emotion. It's all about how what we think affects the molecular structure of our being, right? And so if you're sad and miserable or frustrated, or in my case, when I was diagnosed, felt like life was meant to be a struggle, life was meant to be hard, and I was absolutely living that. I was living in the part of the country I didn't want to be in. I was doing a job I didn't really want to do, and then I got diagnosed, and I was like, I was unhappy and miserable, and I believed that was what I deserved, and you know, the universe went, okay, if that's what you think, try this one. You know? So I think for me, a huge part of my recovery from cancer was not only down to some fantastic science and incredible luck and timing with new treatments for my specific type of disease, but also to be able to go in and go, all right, I can fix some of that at an emotional level, right? And so I did, and then, so off the back of that, I think cancer taught me to not be a victim, right? Not be the universe conspires for your success, but you have to, but it will give you what you it reflects, it's almost like a mirror, right? Is kind of how I think about it. It reflects back to you what you put out. So if you put out like, you know, everything, the world's against me, then that's what you get back. If you put out the world is for me, then you might get that back, right? And then, so I think and that kind of come full circle comes back to the make life your friend, right? Like have a friendly relationship with the universe and the world you're in, and it will reciprocate.
It's like, why not? I mean, it's you know, you feel better when you're doing it. So, and we're all gonna die, so we're not gonna get out of this alive. So you may as well, like, as you said, live in the moment and you know, just be friends with the universe and see where that takes you.
Yeah, and try and have as much fun as you can while you're here.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like, yeah, within reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you having fun in your life right now?
Look, I'm very tired.
Did you?
But yes, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really exciting things going on right now. I feel like, you know, when we going back to the earlier part of this chat, you know, when you talk about the formula for winning ideas, I feel like I've got almost all those things in place now.
Yeah.
And so the projects and things that we're starting to do are really exciting, and they're moving forward in a wonderful way.
Yeah.
And I think someone once asked me, like, what's your definition of success? And everyone has a different answer to that question, but one of the ones that I came up with was, it's doing the things that you said you were going to do with ease, right? And by ease, I don't necessarily mean easy, but I mean with a level of comfort and a level of
knowing that it's the right path.
Yeah, just like being able to kind of go with the flow, right? And like that it's not a struggle, that it's not hard, that things unfold as they're meant to, and not always the way that you expect.
Yeah.
Right? Like you think about, like, you know, we met through Lifemaster Academy, so I'll use an example from there. So like when the school started, I didn't know where I was going to get teachers from. I was flying people in from the States, but I always knew that we had to build our own program here on the ground. And people kind of magically appeared, right? And then when I didn't know where we were going to have shows, and the first theater that we booked a show at fell through, another one kind of magically, you know, availed itself.
Wow.
And so what I've learned is, and I think this is probably one of the most powerful things that I could share with anyone, is to live with intention, but without attachment, right? So know what your goals are, know where your North Star is, but don't be so attached to getting there in a straight line.
Yeah.
You know, learn to go with the flow, understand that things meander and move, and that that's how we kind of get through life, you know, with ease, right?
Yeah.
This can be hard, right?
Yeah.
But going around the obstacles and through and under and discovering things can be fun. And as long as you know where you're headed, you'll probably get there, right? So intention without attachment is a big one for me.
Intention without attachment.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Because what you're saying there is basically be fixed on your goals, but be flexible with how you get there.
Totally, yeah. And be open to, you know, possibly discovering new goals.
New things, yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh, wait, we thought it was that, but now it's this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be even better because blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And and off camera we were talking that you shared with me that you had, you were diagnosed with ADHD. And is that?
What?
Yeah, what?
Squirrel?
Is that what makes you like so energetic and so genius with your ideas?
Oh, God. Look, I think, you know, being someone who has been diagnosed with, you know, attention deficit disorder, and means that, you know, I am excited by lots of things, and I get distracted and attracted to lots of things. It's probably made me a more well-rounded person as a result. Is that useful in terms of like trying to manifest stuff and make things happen? Not always. You know, I think my constant kind of thing that I'm always working on is focus, right? Trying to limit the amount of ideas.
Yeah.
Because you can't do everything at once. You know, the example someone once said is, if you have like 5 cups of coffee on a table and you want to move one to the other side of the table, it's really hard to do this, right, without knocking them over, but you can move them one at a time just perfectly, right? So I'm trying to focus on the 1 cup. I've got about 4 or 5 going right now, but I'm trying to focus on the one. Yeah.
Awesome. And what are some of your life hacks to get into that, you know, that productivity zone, and to, you know, because you're working on so much stuff, how are you so efficient and do things, you know?
Look, I think the very first life hack, right, is make lists. I'm a big list maker. Whether that's on your phone or in a notebook, whatever. Like you'll see me. I almost always have a notebook with me or in my bag.
Yeah.
And again, because attention deficit disorder, if I don't write it down, it could get lost.
Yeah.
So my first thing is make lists.
Yeah.
My second thing would be to let people know how you like to be communicated with. Right now I've got WeChat and iChat and Skype and Messenger and email and phone and text, right?
Like, don't we all? Like, we've got Facebook and, Twitter. And,
totally.
yeah.
Like, we've all got all these
Yeah.
ways that people are constantly going, hey,
Yeah.
right?
And if someone can't get you on one channel, they'll try multiple channels, like, to see if they can get
totally.
you.
Yeah. Like, people can be really persistent.
Exactly.
When they want something. So one of the things I'm experimenting with right now is basically, I've told everyone, email is the best way to contact me, because what that means is I can control how and when I respond, and I won't lose it, right?
Exactly.
If someone sends me a text on Facebook, I'll try to avoid Facebook, because that's a real time suck, as we all know.
Yeah.
But if someone contacts me on Facebook, I'll be like, oh, cool, they want to know X, right?
Yeah.
And then I forget, right? Or I will remember and they're mad because it took too long, right? Or something will, it may fall down.
Yeah.
There's a risk that that might happen. So,
and they think, he just thinks I'm not important or something.
oh
but
yeah,
it's not. It's
that's
not
the
that at
worst.
all. Yeah.
So what I'm doing now is I kind of experimenting with like auto replies and ways to kind of like, anybody reaches out to me on anything that's not email, I say, awesome to hear from you. Send it to my email.
Yeah.
Because I can flag it or I put it in a folder or whatever. Right?
Yeah. So you control how people communicate with you.
Yeah, and how I can
Respond.
ensure that I'm able to respond in a timely and appropriate manner.
Yeah.
That suits my schedule.
Yeah.
And the other thing about schedule is I'm experimenting right now with checking email twice a day.
Yes.
And I'm also experimenting with keeping emails really short. So you'll see in my email signature, I have like a thing that says, why is this email so short?
Yeah.
There's this, it's not my hack. There's an organization called, I think it's called 5 Sentences.
Yeah. And we'll put the link on the description below.
Yeah, so that's how I discovered that. I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. And then the twice a day just kind of makes sense. And then also the other email trick you started using ages ago, which I'm really glad I did, was I turned off notifications. Like you get a ping. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then what I realized was I turned off the ping, but I didn't turn off the little red dot. You can do that too, by the way.
Yeah.
So turn off the ping, turn off the red dot.
And is this on Microsoft Office?
I think all email has that. And so by turning that off, you kind of take the power back. And you stop being like Pavlov's dog and kind of responding and losing track, losing focus, losing momentum, whatever you're doing. Just be careful, by the way, just be careful with the 5 sentences thing, because I did that to my mom. She was very unhappy about it. so it's
like, I raised you. You can't give me more than 5 sentences.
Yeah. So some people maybe you want to break that rule for.
Yeah. All right. So. And I think that's a great discipline to have, because you can get so caught up in emailing, and email is usually a list of other things that people want you to do, and so you just get so caught up in doing other things that are not important to helping you achieve your goals. So that checking emails twice a day is perfect, because you can actually studies have shown that you can actually get through a whole days of emails in an hour, whereas before you would just spend time answering those emails and you're getting distracted.
Yeah, totally. The other thing too that you just reminded me of was when people want something from you.
Yeah.
So there's this funny story. My stepfather is an academic. He's a college professor, right? And at one point in time, it was his turn to become the department chair.
Yeah.
Right? And so as the department chair, like a manager or a director, of any business, he was constantly being barraged with people who wanted information from him, right? And I think he had to do that job. Like everyone kind of rotated into it.
Yeah.
So he was a reluctant department chair, and he found the constant intrusion of questions to be an intrusion, right? And disruptive to his work pattern. So what his solution, his hack, was basically, anybody who emails me, I wait 3 days.
Wow.
And then in 3 days, I call them, right? And I say, hey, I got your email, love to help you. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
And he said, the 3 days gives them just enough time
to figure
out how to do what needed to be done on their own.
Yeah.
But it's not so long that I feel that I look like
that
I've given them the attention and that they deserve and need to feel heard and listened to. I was like, that's genius. So if you don't hear from me for 3 days, that could be what's going on. Figure it out. Yeah. And then what else? You asked me about my top 5 productivity hacks.
Well, just what are the ones that you use that have worked for you?
Yeah. So make lists. Let people know how you want to be communicated with and control your email. Breathe, right? Take time to breathe, like whether that's meditating or going for walks. Get outside, stand up.
Yeah, and do you find time to do that in your day?
To meditate?
Yeah.
Or, I go for walks always.
Okay.
I find that really helpful. Meditating is something that, again, I'm working on it. I'm not a reluctant meditator, but I'm not a constant meditator. I try and, we should all do it twice a day. That's the reality. Life sometimes, means you can't do that, but that is the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
To try and do it twice a day.
Because, we have so many thoughts, like apparently like 70,000 thoughts, and then most of them are repeated thoughts throughout the day. So when you meditate, you create space between those thoughts, which gives you room for new ideas to generate. And that's where the, magic happens.
Totally. Yeah. Like one of the biggest challenges for me when I'm meditating is you calm the mind, and then ideas can come in, and then you feel like, oh, I gotta write that down. But meditate, breathe. Breathe. It's like really hard. So for me, especially with ADHD and like always being distracted and like kind of excited about things or wanting to capture ideas when they occur, to take that moment and just trust that, look, it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, however long.
Yeah.
At the end of it, when it's done, you'll probably be able to remember, right? So there's that. The other thing is learn to delegate. Right? That's a huge one. And for me, like for most of my early career, I felt like I had to do everything myself, right? Couldn't trust anyone to do it the way I wanted it done, or if I did, they didn't do it right, or they didn't good enough, or they didn't meet my level of my standards. And that's learning to delegate and being comfortable with it, right? So like, I think that's the second really important part of that. It's like easy to say, you go do this, but you have to be comfortable with actually letting them do that, and then, and in the case of being a manager or a leader, empowering them to do that and encouraging them to do that and teaching them to do it differently or better if they're not meeting your level of standard, rather than just jumping in and kind of doing it yourself. So delegation is key. Like none of the stuff I'm working on today could I do by myself, right? And going back to the improv stuff, that all the stuff that we teach at LMA is about long form ensemble philosophy, working as a team, right? I've got your back, you've got my back. My job is to make you look good, make you look smart, support your ideas. You're going to do that for me. We're all going to do that for everyone else. Together, we're going to succeed, right? And that's awesome, right? And I'm really lucky now that I feel like I've got great people around me to help with all the different things I'm working on. We talked about intention without attachment. That's a huge part of, I think, like, if you can live that way. I don't know if it's a hack, but it's a productivity hack, but it's, I think, a really important piece. And then the last thing, and probably the most important, is trust your gut. If your gut's telling you something, listen to it. We're taught to think here, but this is where the magic happens, so anybody who's ever made a decision based off their gut will never regret it. You'll never regret that. So I think that's
it's like deep down what you really want, and the universe is almost telling you to follow this path.
Well, I don't know how it works, but I think that
it works for you.
I think it works for everyone. I think everyone has that ability. We all have that, like as humans. We have instincts and we have gut feelings about stuff. That's not something that someone invented and you have to learn how to do it. We all have it, but we all don't listen to it. And I think probably to our detriment. So, trust your gut.
Trust your gut, exactly. So, Eran, so for someone who's, let's say, trying to start up a business right now, or they wanted to create their digital footprint, what are some ways that they can tell their story in a way that resonates with people?
Look, I think one of the first things is to have a personality and or have an opinion. Right? Vanilla doesn't work, online. Nobody loves vanilla, right? You got to stand for something. And, one of my partners, he's constantly writing blogs and LinkedIn, and he always takes intentionally a very controversial approach. I'm not even sure he always believes the things he's writing, but he's getting attention, he's getting noticed, and he's creating a profile. So have an opinion, have a personality, maybe even have both. The other thing I would say is know your audience, right? Know who you're talking to. I think that's super important. Like, if you try and talk to everyone, no one's going to listen.
Exactly.
Right? So
you become everything to everyone, you become nothing to anyone.
And I think even when you're doing something kind of like what you're doing, where the information and the knowledge that you're trying to bring to the world and share with people is probably useful to everyone, you still have to start somewhere and then grow it and let it happen, either by planning and savvy social media skills, or just through sharing organically, like letting people kind of discover the content. And that's the third thing is be discoverable, right? Like the amount of people I know who started blogs or YouTube channels and then they've got 3 views, their mom, their dad, and their sister. Right? And it's like, okay, great. So you've got
myself and I.
Like click, you click farms in India somewhere. Like no, you gotta be discoverable, and you have to do things to make that happen for yourself. It's not enough anymore to have a great piece of content or a great idea and expect the whole world to find it and go bananas for it. Virality can happen, but you can't count on it.
Exactly.
Right?
Because that's like buying a lottery ticket these days.
It sure is. Yeah. And then the other thing too is remember that everything is forever now, right? Like if you put something out there and you're later decide, my hair looks funny, right? Or I said something I wish I hadn't said, or done something I wish I hadn't done. There's cameras everywhere, everything's recorded, and even if it's your own stuff, you want to be careful that you don't put anything out that 5-10 years from now you're gonna be like, or that can really hurt you. Because someone will find it. Someone will find it. And then the last thing, and this is more about writing probably than video stuff, but learn the rules of grammar and punctuation. For the love of God.
Yeah, I'll be sure to do another spell check before I send you anything.
Spell check is your friend. It's there. Click the button. Use it. Yeah.
Before we go to the last question, how can people connect with you?
By email.
By email, But like, do you want them to but you've got a website where you've got all these cool ideas on your social media, so we'll put the link there, check that out. There's like so much great information on there on your blog.
Yeah, there's probably the easiest way to find out what I'm up to and what I'm doing is just my website, which is
Eran Thomson.
EranThomson.com.
What keeps you motivated and inspired to keep getting new ideas and to help people?
Yeah, so I think one of the first things is probably just feedback. So for example, when we set up Lifemaster Academy back in 2012, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Like I said, it was a selfish and naive endeavor to basically allow myself to learn more about something I was interested in. And then as it grew into a proper business and a proper school, there were many moments where I was like, I'm done with this.
Wow.
Screw this. Like, I have other things that I'm also interested in. I have other business ideas that are potentially more lucrative and rewarding on other levels. But what I found was every time I was like, okay, this is the last class, I'm shutting down the school, or this is the last workshop, I'm done, it's too hard, I don't want to do this anymore, it takes too much time. Something would happen that would just make me go, I have to keep doing this. And the very first time, it was in Melbourne. We did our first workshops in Melbourne. I'd flown this guy over from LA. We were having amazing workshops. Everyone was having a great time. We went to Melbourne, did the workshop, and at the break, during there was like a whole day workshop, and so there was a lunch break. And at the break, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm done with the school. I'm shutting it down. And I was sitting in the back of the theater, and there was 2 people in the class sitting in front of me that I don't know if they knew I was there or cared, but they were talking about the first half of the class, and they were talking about like what a profound impact the improv work had on their lives, and they were so ecstatic that they were able to have this opportunity, and they wanted to learn more, and that even though they'd only been in the class for 2 or 3 hours, they felt like it had changed their lives for the better. Wow. And I was just sitting there listening to this conversation, going, "Oh, damn it." So there's been a lot of moments with the school, like moments where I've been like, okay, time to call it, and something like that happens. So feedback is important, and a positive feedback is important. If they'd been like, oh, this sucks, I would have been like, yeah, it does, I'm done. I'm done too.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, so positive feedback. And then also, like, I just think like that on a personal level, like, we talked about how I used to live with this sort of limiting belief that life was meant to be hard, life was meant to be a struggle. And then when I was able to flip that for my own self and see that maybe that isn't true, and that maybe and all you have to do is look around, and you can see that a lot of people also live that way, live with life as a struggle, life is hard. And I'm not trying to say that life isn't hard or isn't a struggle for people. Like, there's the realities of life, but when I say life is hard, life is a struggle, I mean in here, right? In your own head. If you choose to live that way, then that's how you will live, right? And you look at people in war-torn countries or third world countries or developing countries, right? They're not all miserable, right? They may not have electricity 24 hours a day or air conditioning or cable TV, but they're also not unhappy, right? They can find joy and find ways to make life their friend down in those places. So it's truly a mind game there. And I think the fact that there is so much of that misery in the world, personal misery in the world, that if I can in any small way kind of unstick that for someone, like through improv or through helping them save for better retirement through our new superannuation business or whatever it is, like little things can make a big difference. And so I think that's part of it for me.
Okay, you mentioned your new superannuation business. What's that about?
Oh, well, so one of the things that we're working on is a new superannuation company. It's called Zooper, with a Z. And Zooper is basically, if you look at the superannuation industry in Australia in general, it's pretty broken, right? And a lot of people don't understand how much super they have, where their super is, how many super funds they have, how much money's in there. Like we do all this research and it's astounding. And for most of us, it's our biggest asset, right? How many of you have $60,000 or $100,000 in your checking account or your savings account right now? But you might have that in your super account, right? And we don't look after it. We kind of just ignore it.
Crazy.
It's like that 9.5% or whatever it is that comes out of your paycheck is like a tax, And so we were looking at all of these kind of behavioral problems around super, and looking at all the industry problems around super, and felt like we could create something that not only help people understand how to better protect and look after that asset, but also to protect and secure the future that they want to have for themselves when they're older. So it's going to be really interesting. I think we're trying to break that industry. We're trying to disrupt that industry, and our waitlist site launches in a couple weeks. Zooper.com.au. That's my little plug. And I think it's going to be great.
Well, we'll definitely have that link in the show notes.
Awesome.
Eran, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all your amazing ideas.
Thank you.
You've helped people understand how they can overcome self-limiting beliefs. One of the main takeaways for me is that life, you can have hard things happen to your life, but it's about how you respond to that. And having that internal belief system that life is hard is something that you choose to have, and you can let go of it. And you are just a brilliant example of how someone can just be free with ideas and implement so many of them once you let go of that self-limiting belief. So,
I'm trying. I'm giving it a go.
So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
If you like this video, share it. It could help someone else. Leave a comment in the section below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.
Did that branch just land on you?
What? What branch? Well, at least it was like, okay, we're going to cut.
Yeah,
like the
done.
universe is like, we're going to cut
The
this.
universe says, interview over.